Hey guys, Farak here. Okay, so we got some pretty positive reviews from the poker tutorial number 1, so I figured why not? Let's move on to poker tutorial number 2. So let's get into this. Okay, so as you saw, before it's decided who won a hand, there will be a total of 5 cards shown in the middle. There'll be the flop, which is here. Let's write it. Flop. There'll be the turn, and there'll be the river, for whatever reason they're named that. So we're going to do this. Okay, the flop, the turn, the river. Yeah? Excellent. So let's pretend the flop, the turn, and the river. Okay, first let's talk about hands. So how do you beat him? Now that's the question, right? That's the big poker question. So let's start with the simplest scenario. Let's say you, or I, I'm going to write I because it's much easier to understand than you. I. No, I'm going to write you because I love you guys. You have a queen and a 10. And let's say the flop was a king, an ace, a 2, a 3, and a 4. Again, I'm ignoring the spades, the diamonds, the hearts. I'm ignoring the colors. Okay? Let's say he had a jack and an 8. And let's say none of the colors didn't match up well. Okay? So who won this hand? Well, does anybody have any pairs? His jack didn't pair anything. His 8 didn't pair anything. My queen didn't pair anything. My 10 didn't pair anything. There are no cards in order like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's only 3. You need to have a lot more in order to make it worth something. So there are no winning poker hands here. So how do you decide who won this hand? Well, this is actually, we're going to put a thing here that says rank. This is rank 1. It's called the high card. It's the first possible hand you can have to win in poker. Okay? So who has the highest of the high cards? What we do is we look at the 5 cards. To win a hand in poker, you count 5 cards, the 5 best cards. Well, I don't have any matches, so I'm just going to write down the 5 highest cards. I have an ace on the board. I have a king on the board. I have a queen on myself. I have a 10 by myself, and then I have a 4 on the board. These are, I'm sorry about this stupid Excel formatting. So these are my 5 best cards right now. The ace, the king, the queen, the 10, and the 4 in order. Well, what's his best hands? His top is an ace, a king, a jack, an 8, and a 4. So we look and we compare who had the better hand. Well, we both had an ace. So we just delete that. Okay, this is not organized, I'm sorry. Right? We both had an ace. So that just doesn't matter. That's a tie. We both had a king. That's a tie. But if you look at the next card, I had a queen and he had a jack. So I win the entire pot. I don't get like most of it. I won the entire pot because I had the best hand. And it's called a high card. I had a queen high, which is better than his jack high. Let's say, for example, I had a jack, or you rather, had a jack 8 also. So you would have jack here, and 8 here also. Who would win this hand? I'm sorry, there's no queen here. Well, the answer is nobody wins this hand because we tie everywhere. Ace, king, jack, 8, 4 is our best 5-card hand, and it's tie. So we would split the pot. If the pot was, let's say, 100 chips, we would split it. We would each take 50. And that's it. That's the basic hand in poker. It's called high card. And that hand actually finds its way into every other hand, which I'll show you in a minute. The next best hand, or the next hand, is called a pair. Let's say this is the same situation, but instead of a jack 8, I have a 2-8. Now, if you look at his best hand, what is it? Ace, king, jack, 8, 4. Now, if you look at mine, my best hand is what? Well, my first 2 best cards are 2-2 because they match and make a pair. Then I have an ace, and then a king, and then my 8. So you would think, hey, he has ace, king, jack, I have ace, king, 8. He wins, but no, because I have a pair. And a pair is even more powerful than a high card. My 2-2 is more powerful than anybody having an ace, a king, or a jack, or anything, because I made a pair. Now, if he had a better pair, for example, let's say he had a 4, a jack 4, then look, we'd both have a pair. So this would shift down. What would his best cards would be? His best cards would be 4, 4, king, ace, jack. And we both have a pair, but his pair is better because he has higher cards. So even though we both have one pair, he would win. All right? Let's take even another case. What if he actually had a 2 also? So he also had 2-2. You're going to be like, wow, that's great. Split the pot. It's a tie, right? Wrong. Because we both have a pair of 2s, so that's even. Then we both have a king and an ace. That's even. I should do ace king. I'm sorry. But then, if you look at the 5th card of our hand, I have an 8, or you have an 8, and he has a jack. The jack is better, so he wins. And we lose this hand. That stinks. So what beats a pair? Well, what else? 2 pair. Oops. All right, let's take this scenario. So I have a 2 and a 3. So what are my hands? What's my hands? Well, my best cards are what? Not the 2s, are the 3s. Then my best hand is 2-2. And then my best card is an ace. So this is my hand. I'm sorry about all. You know what? I'm going to do this. Done. So my hand is 3-3, 2-2, ace. Well, let's see what his hand is. His hand is 2-2. And then what? Ace, king, jack. Well, I definitely beat him. I have 2 pairs. But it gets better. If this was his hand, now let's look. What's his best hand? He has an ace-ace, the best pair in poker. And then a king, jack, 4. But still, he only has 1 pair. I have 2. So even though he has the best pair in poker, I beat him because I have 2 pairs. All right, well now you might ask yourself, okay, how can I beat 2 pairs? So you're obviously going to think, hey, 3 pairs, right? Wrong. There's no such thing. You can't have 3 pairs because that would be 6 cards. Pair, 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 and you only look at 5. So 3 pairs is not an option. The next best hand is actually called 3 of a kind. And it's exactly what you think. It's him having ace. You know, I'll take a more subtle example. Let's say we had double 2s. And he had this. And you think he's got a killer hand. Because what's his hand? He's got ace, ace, a pair, king, king, and then a 4. That's a rock solid hand. That's 2 pairs, the 2 top pairs in poker, aces and kings. But what do we have? We have our 2s, and then a 2 from the middle, and then an ace, king. 3 of the same card is much more valuable than just 2 pairs. Now you might ask yourself, how did the poker gods decide what hand is better? And the answer is probability. What are the odds of 3 of the same exact number coming out? It's a lot less of that happening than of 2 pairs, then 2 of the same, and then 2 of the same again. Right? I could show you the numbers here, but I do not want to confuse you. It's a lot less common that you're going to find 3 than 2 pairs. In fact, when you have like 6 people around the table, you'll almost always see 2 pairs. But you'll very rarely see 3 of a kind. So what beats 3 of a kind? Well, I'm glad you asked, my dear. The answer is a straight. And just like it sounds, it's straight in order. So let's say we had our 3 of a kind, 2, 2, 2. And we're really confident, right? What's our hand? 2, 2, 2, and then ace king. But look what he's got. He's got a killer hand. He's got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is a straight. Again, no pairs, but that is a killer hand. He would win because he beats our 3 of a kind. And here's where it gets cool. Ace is the highest card in poker and the lowest. Not only is it the highest card, but when it comes to straights, ace is actually before 2. Well, let's look at this. Let's pretend our hand was this. 2, 5. Well, we matched the 2, but we're not even going to worry about that 2 because we have an ace, 2, 3, 4, and we have a 5 card. So we look at our hand and we're like, oh my God, we got a straight. We are so excited. We put so many chips in the middle. But look what he has. He could put an ace here, but you can only do 5 cards. So he does the higher straight. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Our straight ends at 5. Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5. He wins. In fact, let me show you something. Ivy, what was the guy's name? Dwan straight. I'm sorry for being on caps. All right, this must be it.
If you have a business, you have a story. And of course, every story needs an audience. So
skip ad. There you go.
It's the $1 Million Cash Game. This is the leaderboard. Patrick
Okay,
Antonius
these are 2 of the best. I'm going to turn the sound off. These are 2 of the best poker players in poker. Phil Ivey and Tom Dwan. And yeah, they're both incredible. Nothing to say. They would beat me before I even blinked. Phil Ivey is like a god at reading people. He just like stares at you with his eyeballs moving back and forth. You're like, oh my God, take my money. Tom Dwan has a 6-7 here. They're both of hearts, so he's excited he can hit a flush, which we're going to talk about in a minute. I don't even know, what does Phil Ivey have? Phil Ivey has an ace and a 2. You're never going to believe this. Look at the flop. 3, 5. And you'll never guess what comes next. 4. So what happened here? Phil Ivey has ace, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's thinking, oh my God. And this is real money, by the way. He's thinking, oh my God, I got this guy. I got a straight. But look at Tom Dwan. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They call this the absolute nuts. There is no way Phil Ivey can beat him. No possible hand. And of course, they both shove. Without going too much into detail, the pot starting at a mere couple thousand chips swells. Here it's 4,000. There it's over $1 million, 1.1 million. And Phil Ivey is sure he crushed Tom Dwan. And they're both playing it smooth because they both got straight. And then, oh my God, he's got a better straight than me. Look at that face. I just lost $1 million. I thought you guys would appreciate that. So yeah, having the better straight is pretty important. In fact, if you see on the board that there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and you have an ace, and you're like, oh my God, I have a straight, easy boy. Because if the guy next to you is putting a lot of money in, there's a good chance he's got a higher card, a 6, and his straight beats your straight, and you are doomed. So be careful. This is a very important lesson. High cards apply to every other hand. Whoever has the highest of that hand wins. Let's move on to the next hand. So what beats a straight? Well, a flush. And to introduce flush, we have to start talking about what type of cards. So you have a 2 of spades. It's a black 2. And a 5 of spades. On the board is a king of spades, a 5 of diamonds, a 2 of diamonds, a 3 of spades, and a 4 of spades. He has a 5 of diamonds. No, there is a 5 diamonds. 5 of clubs, and a 6 of clubs. Now he is super excited because he's got a 5 and a 6, which means he has 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's hoping you have an ace and you think you have him dominated. And of course you bet a lot and he's like, oh yeah, that guy for sure has an ace. Meanwhile, you have a flush. You have spade, 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 spade. The actual cards don't matter. You have 5 spades. So your hand, in order of how good it is king of spade, also goes by rank. 5 of spade, 4 of spade, 3 of spade, and your own 2 of spade. So you have a flush. His hand is what? 6 of clubs. I guess it doesn't really matter, right? It's just 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. So he's got a pretty nice straight, and he's excited that you probably have a straight with an ace. Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he bets a ton of chips, and you bet back, and of course you win because you have a flush, and you dominated him. Now remember, one more time, if he happens to have an ace of spades and 6 of spades, let's say, you're going to shove all your chips in because you have one of the highest possible hands, but he actually beats you. Because his flush is ace of spade, king of spade, and, then it goes down. But the point is, his spade is better than your best spade. Your best spade is that king, his best spade is an ace. So he'll actually beat you and take all of your money. Alright, that seems pretty cool. So what's a better hand than a flush? Full house. Otherwise known as, you'll hear this in poker videos a lot, a boat. Okay? A full house is a 3 of a kind plus a pair. Extremely, extremely uncommon. So again, we can forget about spades and everything, or we can leave it, let's say. So he has, let's say, a 5 and a 5. And let's say on the board, there are 2 kings. Oh, I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Okay, 2 kings. Well, let's look at the hands. Who's got what? So you have a flush, and you're super psyched. You still have king of spades, 5 of spades, 4 of spades, 3 of spades, 2 of spades. And it's the only thing that could beat you is a flush with an ace high, right? With an ace of spades. You're excited you're going to kill. But what does he have? He has his 2 5s and the 5 from the board, and then the 2 kings from the board. That's called a full house. It's a rock solid hand. 3 of a kind and a pair. Now, by the way, let me show you. Again, this works by high card. If you, for example, had this hand, king, 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 5, 5, you would win. Even though you both have full houses, you have more of the higher card. It always goes by a high card. The high card dominates everything. So even though in this case you have the same exact hand, you both have full houses with kings and 5s, yours is better. But not in this case. In this case, you had a flush, and he had a full house, a boat. So he beats you, and he is going to bet hard, trust me. So what beats a boat? Well, I'm glad you asked. By the way, I understand this will take a ton of practice memorizing these. You can print out these cards. Just Google, poker card hands, and print it out. I'm sure you'll find something that works great. And just hold it near you when you play. Maybe some friends will let you actually look at it. You get used to it, or play versus the computer and stare at it until you have it down straight. Okay, what beats a full house? 4 of a kind. And hell yeah, it happens. Not 4 of a king, 4 of a kind. And I have a great YouTube video to show you after this. Okay, so 4 of a kind. So he's got his full house, and he is psyched because there is no way you are beating him. He's got 5, 5, 5, king, king, and he is going to bet his entire pot. These are the hands where he shoves everything. But guess what you have? Yes, sir, you have a king, king. So your hand is king, 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 and what's the next best card? 5 of diamonds. You've got 4 of a kind, and you know there is nothing that can beat you. You look at the board, it is impossible. Yes, it is impossible for you to be beat at this hand. And he shoves, and you shove all in, and he goes, oh my god, how did you get 4 of a kind? And you take all his money, and then you smack him over the head. Well, that's 4 of a kind. So what beats 4 of a kind? The very last hand in poker. A straight flush. Yes, it's exactly what you think. It's straight and a flush together. Extraordinarily uncommon. And here's the way it would happen. See, he has his full house, and he's excited he's going to kick you. But what do you have? You have 2 of spades, and you have a 6 of spades. So your hand is, starting from the top, 6 of spades, 5 of spades, 4 of spades, 3 of spades, 2 of spades. So you have not only a straight, but also a flush together. And that is the absolute best hand in poker. So no matter what he has here, you're going to beat him. Well, including high cards, what's the real best hand in poker? Well, the real best hand in poker would be ace of spades, king of spades, queen of spades, jack of spades, 10 of spades. This is known as a royal flush, the absolute unbeatable hand. If you see this, you shove all your chips in. Because even if the guy has a straight flush, you also have a straight flush, and it's with the highest card. So they call it a royal flush, but really it's just a straight flush. And in fact, if you're playing with a computer, it'll just call it a straight flush when you win. Because it is just a straight flush, you just have the highest possible straight flush, which makes it pretty awesome. So back to our YouTube videos. You are not going to believe this, and you're going to see me typing, so it sort of gives it away. And yes, it actually happened, and I saw this video, and I was
Elsewhere,
like,
Ray
oh
Romano
my
has
God.
settled into his new table. He's
Terrible.
concentrating on the poker, but he's not in the hand. In fact, there is a big hand developed.
So these are 2 guys that I think this is the World Series of Poker, and look at this. You have an ace, 9, queen, 10, ace. That's a frightening board, but we don't know what they have, right? This guy puts in, shoves a ton of chips, whatever it is. I don't see how much. Should say, right? And this guy shoves all in. And he calls. And look at that hand. Ace of diamonds, king of diamonds, queen of diamonds, jack of diamonds, 10 of diamonds. Unbeatable. And guess what this guy had? He had 2 aces. Look at that face. Ace, 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 ace. That is so uncommon. 4 of a kind aces. A rock solid hand. And he gets crushed and eliminated from the tournament. That is some awesome poker right there. I saw that hand. I was like, no way. I watched it like 5 times over. It's incredible. Well, guys, that is the way the poker ranks, the poker hands work. And when it comes down to it, and you're playing with 4 other people, you know, or whatever, there are 4 people total at a table, you know, you got to think. If you have, let's say, a king, that means you have 3 of a kind, and you could possibly, if a card comes that's a 6, you could possibly get a full house. The odds of someone else having a king are very, very small. And you have to start thinking more broadly about what could possibly happen here, because that's an amazing hand, king, king, king. And there are so many people. Now again, if you're against one guy, if you're against only one guy, and you have a king and something else, you can bet really hard, because there's a whole deck full of cards. The next king is probably in there. But if you're against 4, 5, 6 cards, there's a good chance someone else has that king, and you have to be a little cautious. You know, if you have a 6 and he has a queen as the next card, he'll beat you. So you have to be careful. Well, guys, I hope this tutorial helped you a lot. I'm going to start posting actual poker videos, and you can watch this in action. You know, I'll be playing versus other live people or whatever. Have a great day, guys.